Hey folks, it's Nicholas here again with the third of seven videos about our present planetary moment. And the last couple of times I've used this kind of thematic idea that the meta crisis can be seen as this expression of a sort of dark, horrific glitch in the deep layers of our universe. And apparently, some folks are perhaps understandably hearing like the whole framework as a form of Gnosticism, which I understand to be a kind of typically dualistic theory in which some evil demiurge spirit imprisons sparks of the divine in a material prison from which they have to escape. Um, so this isn't that. So if you want an alternative sketch, try this. Take a sophisticated non-dual awakening um, approach, such as Advaita Vedanta, and then add in an ultimate ground beyond Brahman as its creator, and then look deeply into the actual causes of the density of matter and the separation that's involved in suffering beyond this kind of fairy tale that spirit burned itself down with karma to go on some sort of journey. And then really integrate that with modern science. So that's what I mean, very roughly speaking, by a class three reality theory, which isn't even the totality of the thing called IDEM, which we're going to end up in. So obviously I can only like give a very gross caricature in what's going to be about 50 total minutes of video here. If you're interested in the details, then I strongly suggest you sign up for the Substack devoted to this topic.
So last time we finished with this picture of the USS or universe scale shadow expressing itself through two humans with very different default psychological stages. And then we asked if you and I can see at least a glimmer of this picture, what new response can we make? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Today, I'll sketch just one personal level response mode that you can start right now, if you wish, in a simple three-step form. For details, as well as systemic level responses, again, please see this Substack. Before beginning, you'll need an established inner work practice. If you don't have one, now's the time to start. If you don't know how to start, here are three class three reality theory congruent suggestions. FC and MC here refer to feminine centered and masculine centered guides for psychospiritual inner work. Now, in outline, the response mode I will discuss today uh, involves disconnecting first from the USS to restore neutrality. And frankly, if this were the only thing you did every day, it would be a massive contribution to collective well-being. But there are two further steps in neutrality involving arc relationship, inviting it, and then using it to intuit and realize one of two different inner configurations. So what is this arc thing anyways? It's the always, everywhere, already reality aspect that restructures consciousness. It's always everywhere already, but it's typically inactive until it's actively invited. And you've actually almost certainly already experienced its action in grace, in relational shifts, or if you've been the giver or receiver of transformational compassion. The arc is a truly amazing agency, really. And we can see conscious explicit relationship with the arc actually as a gift of the USS. So the arc exists exactly to meet USS type emergencies. Then we can use a meaningful understanding of the USS in our inner worlds as one way to bring forth the arc clearly and explicitly via an intention or prayer of the kind shown here. Now let's look at putting all this into three-step practice. So we start with feminine and masculine centered exemplars whose inner worlds have been cracked open to USS exposure by outer world pressures. Let's call them Alice and Bob. Feminine-centered Alice happens to have a female biology and identifies as a woman. Masculine-centered Bob, a male biology and identifies as a man. So the first thing to do is to retreat or disconnect from the outer world, for example, by psychodynamics of distantiation or even temporary dissociation, though that often still leaves inner contact with the USS. Our goal here is to achieve a functional form of inner neutrality, maybe by patching up the entryways for the USS, or again, by simply moving away from it. In functionality, here's the next step. Inner invitation of arc relationship, for example, by using the sort of inner world instruction or prayer shown earlier. Now, active arc relationship is far more than a subtle body fifth chakra opening, but it can be helpful to think of it that way, in part because we really want to deploy it in verbal relating and in inner listening. One function of the arc is to provide guidance, especially in USS relating. So it's typically important to develop some explicit inner communication with it, which I'll call intuition here. Notably, we're looking at two different paths for relating to the USS in this work, and arc guidance can be crucial for a given person to find their right one. So let's say that Alice intuits that stable disconnection from the USS is her right path. What this looks like is the ability to return to all the topics of outer world connection without experiencing the USS coming at her through them. So now she experiences herself in a sort of arc-mediated peaceful harbor. And let's say Bob finds that stable USS connection is right for him. Here, he still experiences the ferocity of the USS in the domains of the world. But now he has the arc stably online in world connection. So, why would anyone want this? Because the world now becomes a conduit to extend the arc into the depths of the USS and bring it healing and transformation. Remember, the USS is the anguish of the living universe. So this activity is really an ethical imperative for those for whom this activity is their right path. Now here we have one possible Alice-Bob relational configuration in which a feminine center from her peaceful harbor extends love light to empower, heal, and support a masculine center in its sometimes, often actually, brutal encounters with the USS. Now there's a really important nuance here. Alice can only find that peace if Bob really commits to his part with the USS. Essentially, she's living in a future when the USS has been healed and transformed, but that future can only be real if he completes his part. Okay, next time I'll talk about one frequent misinterpretation of the picture I just painted, which sees it as calling for sexist or gender role oppression, and also one typical misexecution in which some masculine-centered beings end up playing the feminine-centered role.
Should be fun. Again, I'm Nicholas. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.